this point, I would like to welcome our Chief Editor, Professor Stephen Joseph. Please welcome Professor Joseph.
Thank you, Diane. Members of the CJMS Editorial Board, Professor Ember, Chairman of the Board of Governors, UTT, Professor Prakash Prasad, President of UTT, Professor Festus Adeyobo, Vice President, Research, Academic, and Student Affairs, authors, students, blind reviewers rather, and colleagues. Now, this journal was conceptualized over a year and a half ago. So, if you find me looking very excited, it's because I am very happy this morning to see the inaugural launch of the Caribbean Journal of Multidisciplinary Studies, CJMS. And those who are involved in journal production work will tell you that this is no easy undertaking. It requires a dedicated team with patience and, of course, meticulous attention to detail. And I'm lucky to be associated with such a team comprising the managing editors, Ms. Brenda James, who retired from UTT just a few days ago, and Dr. Andrew Hunt, who also left UTT recently. Our copy editors, Dr. Barbara Constance and Dr. Iris Hewitt Bradshaw. The blind reviewers who will remain blind and anonymous. The electronic journal system managers, Dr. Maurice Phillips, he has led the team and he is responsible for the platform and all the beautiful work that you'll be seeing shortly. Supported by Ms. Keisha Dano, who is hidden in the back, and Dr. Marlon Melville. And of course, our publishing and marketing team. Thank you very much to Tova Skeet, Anva Lewis, Paulette, Alfred, Guy James, and of Diane Wongmore. Thank you very much for being a very supportive team. We are also working very closely with UTT Libraries, and I must mention Ms. Sunita Gobin, who is helping with our ISSN assignment, as well as things like indexing and so we are working very closely with the library. CGMS is an online, open access, double-blind, peer-reviewed journal, and it publishes multidisciplinary scholarly works expressed through various media. Now, we hope to publish at least one issue a year, but this could increase to 2 with additional support. A resident margin editor, perhaps. The journal provides more than just a forum for intellectual discourse. It is also meant to address national and Caribbean issues and hopefully provide solutions to several societal problems. So let's take a sneak preview of the contents of this inaugural issue. The first article is a qualitative action research study in education that deals with the efficacy of constructing an online flipped creative writing classroom for a standard 3 primary school class or school during the COVID-19 pandemic. And the authors are here, Gina May Mohammed and Damien Ortega. Could you identify yourself? Just give a little wave, and so let's hear it for the authors of this. Thank you for coming. The second article focuses on the performing arts and deals with the subject of Carnival Dawn, an approach to cross-cultural musical fusion in times of change. Now, the study describes the national musical context and examines aspects of Trinidad and Tobago Carnival, its culture, and Western classical sonata form. And the authors are Adam Walters and Joshua Watkins. So let's hear it for them. I don't think they're here. I think they are abroad right now and probably looking at the thing live, all right? So thank you. Now the next article is written by Troy Smith, and it presents a snapshot of the effects of sheltering in place by assessing the effects of COVID-19 on online routine activities and cyber crime. Now, Troy Smith is here. Let's hear it for him. Yes, thank you very much. Yes, the following 3 engineering pieces complete the list of 6 articles for this first issue. The first one is failure analysis of a sucker rod from an oil well located offshore Trinidad and Tobago. And this piece was written by 3 authors. Listen carefully to the names: Frank Byron, Nizam Mohammed, and Clement Ember. Let's hear it for the authors. All right. And I think Frank, say it, Frank? Just wave, right? Nizam? Nazim? No, he's not here.
We are sent an excuse.
All right, okay, good. And of course, our very own chairman took a chance and wrote in our issue, and we really appreciate that level of confidence and support from our chairman. The next article is entitled Determining Viscoelastic Behavior in Sweet Potato Tissue, written by Miguel Jagasan. I know he's here, so just wave. Thank you. The final article, a techno-economic analysis of the Guapo Cruise E heavy oil sands in Trinidad and Tobago, written by David Alexander, Donny Budlal, Mohammed Sarouche, E.J. John, and Deborah Ramnath. I know a few of them are here, so please indicate, wave, yes, thank you so much. Thank you. Now in closing, I want to say that the quality of a journal is determined or impacted to some degree by the members and academic credentials of the editorial board. The Caribbean Journal of Multidisciplinary Studies is honored to have a cadre of distinguished scholars in divergent fields. And these individuals provide unpaid honorary service as ambassadors, and therefore they add credibility to the journal. I'm seeing quite a few of them here this morning, and I just want to recognize them. Of course, we already recognize Professor Imber, who is a member of the board, Professor Prakash Prasad, our president, Professor Adeyobo, our vice president, Dr. Winford James, that everybody knows. I wonder if Dr. Lila Boiselle was able to make it. Dr. Boiselle. She was originally from United Arab Emirates, and when we spoke with her, she was so excited about this Caribbean Journal. You know, she gave us a lot of support, and she's here today to this session. Professor Betty McDonald is also a member of the editorial board, and I saw her earlier. Thank you for coming. So let's hear it for members of the board who are here, and those who are not here. Thank you very much. Thank you for your labor of love and continued support. The CJMS team also looks forward to receiving high-quality pieces of work from all those who wish to publish in the second issue of this multidisciplinary journal. And I will tell you that a call for papers will be made as early as tomorrow. And I take this opportunity now to introduce to you our Pts Speaker, Professor Ember.
Thank you, Professor Joseph. I just mentioned the name of Professor Joseph as the start of the salutation list. As Professor Prakash Prasad, it's not necessarily in the order in which I have it on the program. Professor Adeyobo and Professor Joseph mentioned their designations. I don't have to go through that again. Of course, the sort of opening batter. You know, the word batter is used these days because they don't want to say batsman and batswoman, so they say batter. They use the American baseball term. The opening batter, Diane Wong Mo, recognized her as the MP, and she's the one who reminded me that I had to come here today, and then told me that they wanted me to do the feature address, which I got up at 4 o'clock this morning to do. And so I called, I spoke to Darwin and told him I might be a little late because I had just finished and rushed off, but I got here in the car park at 10:29. So when Professor Joseph told me we were waiting for you to start, I said, don't try that. I got here at 10:32, you want a little time, but don't blame me. Don't try that at all on me. So, who else I had to recognize? Dr. Maurice Phillips, I think that's the tall guy I saw there. There's no one. Then who's that tall man? No, I know who it is as he is weird. And Brenda James, our recently retired chief librarian. Have I missed out anybody on the list? I don't think so. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know if you have the press here, probably not. But it's always good to highlight our university in the press, either by press releases or sending a video to them. So whoever is recording this, not for me, I don't need any more publicity, but for the university. I want to first congratulate Professor Joseph and the rest of his team for starting this journal. It is important. There are thousands of journals in the world today. Some of them not so good. Many of them highly rated. Some of them overrated. They are among the three major publications that academics and other researchers use to publicize their work. There are, of course, conference proceedings, which are not, some of them are refereed, and we'll talk about refereeing in a little while. Some of them are not. Some of them very prestigious, international referee conference proceedings. But they are just slightly below the hierarchy of recognition, if you like, in terms of types of publications. And then, of course, there are professional magazines, and they are, for instance, I'm a member of the ASME, the American Society of Mechanical Engineers, and they publish a very learned magazine. Many of the articles are updates on the technology, but many of them also have original research in them. So there are these professional magazines are not to be slighted, so to speak. They have some very good stuff. They keep you up to date, and there's also original stuff there. So there are these three, but the journals are at the top of the list in terms of publications. And certainly peer-reviewed journals. And Professor Joseph mentioned double-blind peer review, and he also said open access. Well, today with the internet and so on, open access journals are very common now. Some journals that were not allow open access, some very prestigious journals, but all of them, of course, can be obtained online. when I was doing my master's degree, it was a long time ago, some of you were not born who were here, this is 77, I went to England. And then when I was doing my PhD, I had to go to libraries and dig up books. Some of them I had to go in the archives to get relevant papers, articles, to see what they had to say, so that I can make sure that what I was doing was new. Today, you can get all of them. You have to subscribe, you have to pay for some of them, but you can get everything online, so it's much easier. Now, this journal is a multidisciplinary journal. Most journals dedicate themselves to specialized areas, and the articles in these journals tend to be original research, which is sort of the top of the line again in terms of articles. Then there are reviews, article reviews. People write reviews of especially the people who are top in the field. They'll do a review of what has been happening in the last couple of years in a particular area. Then there are book reviews and investigations. The article of which I'm a co-author in the CGMS is an investigative article. It's a failure analysis, but it goes to the root cause of what happened in a failure, and of course gives recommendations and so on. And I must confess, I don't know who the authors were, because this journal is double-blind. Double-blind means that both the authors and the reviewers are confidential to the editorial board, and neither the authors nor the reviewers know each other, kind of thing. Although you sometimes suspect if it's a paper in a narrow area, for instance. I've written a few papers, scholarly papers on the steel pan and the science in the steel pan, and I tended to know who the reviewers were. Some of them tried to be very critical, because I knew that these were sort of competitors in the area of research at the steel pan. But in other areas, of course, it's impossible to know. So double-blind is good. It means that you have the confidence that nobody knows each other, and so on. Now, our journal is a multidisciplinary journal. There are several journals, especially in smaller institutions, that are multidisciplinary. They may be a little more confined to a particular area. I'm on the editorial board of one of UWI's journals. UWI has about 10 journals. One of them in engineering, called the West Indian Journal of Engineering. And there are several others in UWI in criminology and many other areas. One of them refers to sort of double method research, where you have both quantitative and qualitative areas of research in one paper. And I am on the editorial board of the Caribbean Quarterly. It's a UWI journal that is dedicated to culture in the Caribbean. And I suppose because I'm involved with the steel pan movement, I was asked to be on the board. But there are about 10 of them. So I'm happy to see that UDT has joined the club as a new university, relatively new university, in having a journal and a multidisciplinary journal. We have to grow to the extent where we may have journals in specific areas. One of the journals, for instance, from UWI is the Journal of Criminology. Now, those journals are not confined to West Indians or to people in UWI or anything like that. So we also will have to sort of broaden our catchment of authors, and as I say, grow to the extent where we may have areas. For instance, we are one of the few schools in the Caribbean in agriculture. may want to have something in agriculture. We used to have a very prestigious journal in tropical agriculture. I haven't seen it for a while, so I don't know if it still exists. I suspect so. Because as you know, the UV grounds 100 years ago, more or less exactly 100 years ago, a tropical agriculture school, ICTA, was formed there, and it was the sort of prestige tropical agriculture school in the British Commonwealth. And as you know, 100 years ago, the British Commonwealth was really very big. I mean, the biggest, of course, prize was India. And before that, of course, the United States. But then the United States got their independence, 250 years ago. India got theirs in 1947. So it was a prized, it was a very prestigious school. People from all over the world came to the ICTA, the Imperial College of Tropical Agriculture. So we are young, but we will grow. And there's a journal called Nature, a very prestigious journal. It exists. It is one of the first, well, not one of the first, but an old journal. Nature, it still exists, it's very prestigious, and it's multidisciplinary. It mainly deals with scientific topics, of course. But, so we're in a good place, a good league with nature. We're similar to nature. Nature was founded in 1869. But let's go back to the beginning of the first journal. The first journal, you know, in the very old days, a lot of scholarly things and religious things, and those things were tended to be the same, were written in Latin. And then French became the sort of language of diplomacy and the elite and so on. So the first journal that we know of was called the Journal de Sacant. Now, that was in 1665. As you know, if you read some of Shakespeare's works, or you go back to Chaucer and so on, or you go back to Chaucer, you'll see that language has changed. The English language has changed. A lot of words are spelled differently, and some words don't exist anymore, and so on. The same would have happened to French. So in 1665, it was the Journal de Sacant, which is now savant. A savant is used, S-A-V-A-N-T, in English too, to mean somebody who is very learned, somebody who is possessed of learning. So it was a journal of people who were very learned, of course. And the next one, very soon after, a few months after, in same 1665, was the Philosophical Transactions of the Royal Society. Well, England wasn't going to be left out of that. They were, the British Empire was raging in those days, very large. The sun never set in the British Empire, or as Churchill would have said, the British Empire. And the Philosophical Transactions of the Royal Society appeared also in 1665. And then some other journals came along. But the first peer-reviewed journals, proper peer-reviewed journals, was a journal that was published by the Society of the Medical Society of Edinburgh. A lot of our West Indian people have studied medicine in Edinburgh. And these were essays and observations in medicine. And that was almost 100 years later. Not 100 years later, like 70 years later in 1733. And since then, there have been several journals, as I say. Today, you have thousands of journals on different topics, some of which are multidisciplinary, like the journal that we have published today. So, journals tend to be ranked. There are organizations that rank journals, and the two rankings that they give, journals and their papers that are published, is the impact factor. The impact factor is the impact factor of a journal. and then there are citations of a particular article. So if your article is cited by other people, many other people, it gives a higher rating to your paper. If the journal itself, the papers that are published in the journal are cited by many people, the impact factor of the journal increases. Now, there are some areas that are so specialized, not many people are involved in that research. So not many people would cite the papers in certain journals. So many academics have not paid very much attention to this impact factor business. They really look at papers that are published and their own merits of the paper, rather than looking at the impact factor of the journal. As a matter of fact, a number of academics in the United States signed a declaration saying, listen, see this impact factor business, it really plays too much, there's too much attention to this impact factor for the promotion of people in academia. So let's be very careful of this impact factor business. And there's merit in that. Now, the fact is that the promotion of academics is based largely on peer-reviewed journals that are of repute. It is how people are normally promoted. I say normally because sometimes people have shown tremendous innovation so that their artifacts, what they have invented, may be very seminal. Some people have made really one particular invention that is so seminal, or one particular paper that is so seminal that it is worth 40 others, or a patent of an invention. But generally speaking, it's a numbers game. You look at, I remember after my PhD, I went up, my PhD is UE, but I did it in Montreal, through CEDA. There was so that I didn't register in Concordia or McGill, but all my work was done there. And I'd go there, I did it part-time, went there for several years during the summer. And I remember after my PhD, the professor said, listen, you have plenty of papers to get out of this thing, you know, so why you don't come up and let's start to do that? I said, all right. So the first paper I wrote, he said, no, this is too long, you could easily get 2 papers out of this. I said, but it's the same thing. He says, no, you have to understand the game, you know. So I said, okay. He says, listen, let me tell you something. 8 in the good diagrams, you write a story around them, and there's a good paper. I give people that advice all the time, telling them that you get 8 good diagrams that are different. Write a story, and you have a good paper for a journal. That was the advice he gave me from the first one I wrote, which was, he said, too long and split it in half. So it was part 1 and part 2, because it was on the same thing. So there you have some advice, people, if you want to play the numbers game, journal publications. Don't put too many things into one. This particular journal, the Caribbean Journal of Multidisciplinary Studies, and you may notice I pronounce the word Caribbean rather than Caribbean. It's because my father studied in English in England, and this is the original pronunciation, Caribbean rather than Caribbean. You know, I sometimes do that to let people know that I'm not mispronouncing the word. It's the original English pronunciation, and if you go to England, they still say Caribbean, not Caribbean. So Caribbean both are optionally accepted, I might put it that way. This particular journal, I was given some points by Professor Joseph, which is supposed to serve as a catalyst for innovation and research. It is supposed to also serve as a platform for scholarly work, scholarly discourse, and critiques, of course. Reviews are generally critiques, and reviews are an important part. And as I said, investigations are an important part of the journal. Then we also need to sensitize researchers and academics generally of new knowledge that is taking place. We are notorious in the Caribbean for not recording our work. So you find that only academics tend to write. In the more industrially developed countries, people in industry, not necessarily people who are in the research department of industry, they write, they record the work that they have done. There are many things that are done by engineers, I'm sure by the ministries and other engineers in Trinidad that are worthy of recording, because there are techniques that have been applied differently and so on. So we need to sensitize people, academics and others in industry of new knowledge. Research, of course, enhances your teaching. So that is another goal of the paper. And of course, we need to increase the visibility and the credibility of our researchers and of UTT. And most of all, we need to ensure that, as I said, the face of UTT is out there, which is exactly what I said, to enhance the visibility and credibility of the institution. So in closing, I'm happy to see so many of you have accepted to be on the board. I must say, I wrote to Professor Joseph when he said earlier we wanted to do, or is it Diane, I can't remember who told me that we'd like you to do the feature address because you know you're on the editorial board. I said, really? Well, it is not the first time I've been appointed to something and only found out afterwards. But I appreciate it, and I must say, not only did I accept, but I accept graciously for the confidence that they have in me that I can at least critique somebody's paper at some time, in some area. So, last but not least, I heard Professor Joseph say that, we'd like to have more than one publication per year. Many journals come out every month, some come out every 2 months, some come out every 3 months, quarterly, some come out once every half a year, once every 6 months. But most of them are between the 2 months and the quarterly. So we'd really like to get more papers from you, and from the university community, and from UE, and from other universities in the area, and internationally, so that we can have more frequent publication in the journal. He mentioned, however, that he would like to see a full-time managing director. Well, I'll tell him that the 10 or so journals in UE are published by UE Press, yes, but it's done mainly by volunteers. So I don't want them to get too excited about UTT paying out full-time managing editor. Most of even the big international journals, they tend to be, the editorial board tends to be mainly people in academia, but a lot of other people in industry who have a very innovative leaning, who have innovative leanings. We must get some more of these people. I think a few people, I saw the list, it's a good list. We must get a few people from industry in particular areas. They don't have to be an editorial board, but they can be guest editors. I have been, or reviewers rather, not guest editors, reviewers. I've been a reviewer for several journals, and I'm not on the editorial board. So once again, thank all of you for coming here today. Thank mostly all of you who have contributed to this particular journal. And I see Frank Byron is here. Frank did his PhD in UDT, sorry. I keep mixing the two. I was there for so long. Frank did his PhD in UDT. He told them, he was bold enough to tell them there's only one person who could supervise my PhD, and there's Professor in there. Because he did it, it was largely done with electron microscopy, and we don't have engineers in Trinidad who are familiar with electron microscopy. So I gladly accepted, but they appointed also Azim Mohammed as co-supervisor, and that is why you see the three of us are authors of that paper. We are co-authors of several papers. Frank did wonderful work, and there's more to come from his PhD thesis. There's a lot of work. So thank you very much, Frank, for that, and again, thank you all the other contributors to this journal. How many minutes I had? 7 to 10? I was trying to fill it up, you know. I don't know how many minutes I took, but this is my last thank you. Thank you, and bye-bye. Bye-bye from the podium.
So we would like to thank our chairman, Professor Claudia, for such a still contribution in relation to journals in Trinidad and Tobago. So thank you very much, Professor. At this time, we would like to invite Professor Festus Adeyogo to do a special presentation for us in collaboration with Dr. Loris Phillips. So we would want to demonstrate for you what the system looks like, Professor.
Okay, I'll soon get on to the show that we put out, but I just want to say one or two words. First of all protocols observed. Okay. I listened very keenly to Professor Umber's his address to us. I was really very thrilled by the points he raised. The history of publication and the importance of it. Okay. And you have to remember that all these great journals started off by being the deliberations and thoughts of people doing research and discussing and publishing them. So we are really very encouraged that UTT is going along this direction. I want to thank Professor Joseph and his team. Okay, I know they've worked with great passion, and you did that really to be able to get us to this stage. I'm happy that it is an electronic journal, okay, very modern one, and it's going to give us an opportunity, those of us in UTT, to report our research work, our thoughts and reviews of works in our various areas of specialization, okay, and that it will give us an opportunity to comment on society, okay. We live in very interesting times when the modes of production, the way industry changes things, industry makes things are actually going to change, okay, because of the green issue. So I'm really looking forward to you seeing what you think. Now, my own experience is that, the sign of a successful, mature journalist is one where the referees are critical. Okay? They have to be critical. The double blind one, I agree with it. But they are also helpful in the comments they give. Okay? In other words, they are encouraging. So I wish to say for our journal here. And it's also the certain journal is often one that talks about relevant issues. And I can see a lot of that in this place. Our environment, the Caribbean environment is unique in many ways. Anyway, I wish to say for CGMS, Well, soon I'm sure that the CGMS will attract contributions from outside UTT. I spoke about this to some colleagues from UA. They're already interested in it and other places, and I think we should welcome this. Okay? We shouldn't discourage it at all. We should welcome this. Okay. I wish the CJMS great success. Okay? And I'm happy at this point now to invite Dr. Lawrence Phillips to actually start the online introduction on that.
Thank you very much, Prof. Ladies and gentlemen, Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to direct your attention to the screen. We are about to publish the inaugural issue of the CJMS. Quite a lot of work went into the development, the installation, the configuration of the CJMS platform. And at this point in time, the platform is working feverishly to communicate notifications via email to all of the registered users on the platform. So this may take a minute or two. At this point in time, I would like to thank the journal team, particularly Ms. Keisha Dano, Dr. Marlon Melville, Ms. Diane Wong, or more, for all of their support in the development and of the journal platform and getting it to this point. So ladies and gentlemen, while we are waiting for the platform to respond, I'll just give you a bit of an overview of how the platform works. So an author will submit their research article onto the CJMS platform. Once the article has been received, the managing editor will review the article and then assign reviewers to perform a double-blind peer review of the article. That review will take place. There's a given time frame in which the review is expected to be received from the reviewers, and any corrections or modifications that are necessary would be communicated to the author by the managing editor. From there, once the article has been accepted, it is then moved forward to the copy editors who will prepare any corrections, grammatical corrections, formatting, and so on that is necessary for the article to be published. And then, again, we communicate with the authors to ensure that the articles are prepared to their satisfaction. So at every step of the process, we communicate with the authors
by a feedback loop to ensure that the articles are prepared and they are approved of the changes that are made. Finally, the article is then moved forward to the production editors where the galleys for the article are prepared, and once the galleys for the article are prepared, they are then placed onto the platform in preparation for our live demonstration here today. So we have quite a lot of users on the platform, so it's taken a while to communicate by email to everyone. And so what I may do at this point just to speed up the process. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for a round of applause. Our inaugural issue has been published and it is now live. Okay. Please have a seat, everyone. Wonderful. So now you are looking at the home page of the Caribbean Journal of Multidisciplinary Studies. Once you access the home page via https://cgms.utt.edu.tt, you will be able to log into you'll be able to visit the home page and see the inaugural first issue of the Caribbean Journal of Multidisciplinary Studies. The cover page illustrates all of the articles that are received and the authors that have made it in the first issue. And as you scroll down, you'll be able to read a bit about the inaugural issue from the chief editor. And then finally, ladies and gentlemen, the articles themselves are now available via these hyperlinks on the platform. So I will demonstrate to you our first article, Flipped Classroom. Once you select the link for the article, it takes you to the article issue page, where you have the title of the article displayed, as well as the authors and their affiliation. Also displayed are keywords for the article and the abstract, as well as the biographies of the authors. The article itself can be accessed via this link. And once you select the link, the article is now present and accessible on the platform. So anyone, anywhere in the world, can visit the CGMS, the Caribbean Journal of Multidisciplinary Studies, and access these articles live on the platform via this link. Professor Himberg made a note of Dr. Frank Byron's contribution. I'd like to briefly show you the article that he spoke about. The title of the article, Failure Analysis of a Sucker Rod from an Oil Well Located Offshore Trinidad and Tobago. article itself can be accessed via this link. And finally, ladies and gentlemen, the full galley issue for all articles published in the first inaugural issue of the CGMS can be accessed via this link here under full issue. And once you select this link, you will get a PDF document of all of the research articles that were accepted and approved for this first issue. So at the header, you would have the authors, as well as the pages for the publication. And as you scroll through, you can read and view each article and quickly and easily move on to the next article. So I want to thank you, and now hand you over to Ms. Diane Moore, who will continue the proceedings.
But I think that was to the authors, congratulations, your work is now live. To the technical team, congratulations. The system is now live. Wonderful, so thank you all very much. And at this time, we would like to have our closing remarks from Professor Prakash Prasad. Professor Prasad, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson, Professor Ambe, Professor Adeyobo, Professor Joseph, Ms. James, distinguished authors, reviewers, colleagues. Good morning, buenos dias. You know, the journal is called the Caribbean Journal of Multidisciplinary Studies. And I think today is a historic day, historic occasion in which UTT has launched this journal. So if you join me in giving a round of applause to the wonderful team and the wonderful work. UTT is multidisciplinary in nature. When it was founded, its founder and president and chairman then said that, you know, we should not have departments, but rather have a multidisciplinary approach to research. In fact, Chairman will recall when a team from UB went to the Caribbean islands, went right through the Caribbean islands, and we asked them, what do you think, you know, you should do in engineering? Should we produce more mechanical engineers, more electrical engineers, what? The response in every island was this: we don't really need specialist engineers. We have mainly small industries. We want somebody who would know engineering, finance, etc., to contribute to our companies, because the purpose of education in the final analysis is to improve the economy. It's not education for the sake of education. So UTT is that way, and therefore I really congratulate Professor Joseph, Professor Adeyobo, and others in this team for this insight. It is important that we know who we are, where we are, to go anywhere in the world. You know, Chairman did indicate about, he was told how to properly structure the papers. Sometimes I make a joke that is probably politically incorrect. But in this part of the world, before, you know, recycling became a popular term, it was in practice in academia, where a lot of papers are recycled. present company exempted, of course. But, so I want to reinforce that when MIT started, it started by saying, hey, we are going to solve the problems of the area in which we live, the industry. That is why the number of government funding up to today, and they have spawned so many industries. Some years ago, if you look at the companies that were spawned from MIT, it will form the net value of it will form the largest economy in the world. So this is important. So you have to start somewhere. And I think this is important. Now, another point I would like to raise, is that we have an opportunity here to really do something that's unique. And again, I might say something that is politically incorrect, but I can't help it. When I joined the same day as Professor Ambe at UE, a day or two before, a little before, the head of the department, my supervisor, asked me, whether I would like to join the university or not. Being a young, naive man, just finishing research, I said to him, what is a university about? He said it is about the truth, seeking the truth. So I said to him, all right, I am a pundit. I understand that pundits seek the truth. Clergy seeks the truth. And just I might be facetious and so say it, but a pundit means a learned man, Hindi word for a learned man. So I said, I can identify with that, and therefore I will join the university. When I joined the university, and this is about multidisciplinary again, in engineering, Professor Ambe will again recall that we always have a few Jamaican students and some Belgian students. So in my classes, I would talk about a variety of things which they were not happy with, because I would talk about issues outside of engineering. Though I must say, in my defense, many who have met afterwards said, sir, we don't understand what you were saying and why you were saying it, when they went out to work. But anyway, back to multidisciplinary. I was said to them, you have to be careful. Do not write Gomer. So one fellow from another island said, what is that? I said, you are here in the Caribbean. You should not be culturally illiterate. And this is something we must understand here, that as Professor Julian has said, there are no silos in engineering. There should be no silos here also. That cultural literacy, engineering literacy should be there. We must understand all these things. And if we do that, we'll have the opportunity to produce work that is outstanding. On that point, I want to say solve problems, as I said before. And I give a simple example that engineers would understand. I had an MSc student who was looking at, can we make a machine to automate the making of pillory? You know the pillory? Making pillory, you put your hand over the fire all the time. It's a very tedious and dangerous work, actually. I mean, you have machines that make donuts, similar frying process that do fries. So we say, this thing couldn't be that difficult to do. But we tried for a year, and we couldn't make any headway. We got square pillory, oblong pillory, all kind of strange looking pillory, but we couldn't get round pillory. And the reason was high engineering. In engineering, things that flow smoothly like water is linear, hydrodynamics. Things like flow with oil and sludge, as David and Donnie would know, maybe Dr. Byron knows, it's non-Newtonian mechanics. So to solve the problem of the humble pillory or umble pillory, in deference to Chairman, the proper English, the mathematics involved is exceedingly complex. Professor Adioba, a professor of process engineering, will understand that. Today it has been solved. The point I'm making is this, that the simplest of problems, it may look trivial, but the solution requires great rigor, great scholarship. And this is why this journal can be important. Solve the problems to have an impact here in the Caribbean. but the method and the analysis you use must have the right rigor. And this is going to establish us as we go forward. We cannot come Cambridge overnight. We are not 900 years old. We are not even 90 years old. Universities take time to go forward. So therefore, I would think, and there's my earnest hope also, that this journal will be, pioneering this field of culture, sort of multidisciplinary studies, where we look at culture, engineering, agriculture, a variety of things, to come up with things that are new, because the new developments come on in multidisciplinary areas when we get there, which is where the original intent of UTT. Lastly, Chairman, I did speak to the senior manager corporate communications that we have to revive the UTT press and expand it, because this is online journal, and I would think as we go forward, not only written publications, but now that streaming is a big thing. Some of the publications could be videos, production, these sort of things. I think we have to be innovative, think ahead. And that is something we'll approach you. So we don't want a managing director, but we have a senior corporate communications manager already and staff. This is something we can do. So again, on this historic occasion, I want to compliment Professor Joseph, Professor Adiomo, Dr. Phillips and the team for the wonderful work that you've done. And indeed, I think you're going to keep the flag of UTT flying high. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Basad. Talking about innovation, I mean, we are on the racetrack now. UTT has made its mark today. We have launched and we are celebrating. Round of applause again. Yes, we are keeping this thing alive. So at this point, we want to invite a vote of thanks from our managing editor of the CJMS, Ms. Brenda James.
States has the worst educational system known to science. What? It's the moment of misery all day. Destruction of the weak is nature's plan. The humble and the meek must understand. This day of the strong man is the devil's headache. All men strive to be happy with endless search for luxury. In search of peace and happiness, the human mind wouldn't rest. A constant knock within we soul, demanding respect from the world. We get the urge in different form, but luxury is the norm. Money is very essential, but can't buy peace of mind at all. We still like talk without a bone, if we have the money alone. Because appreciation is on the human mind. Everyone needs some, or happiness all is right. Because importance, if we are trying to live, everyone's on the hunt. Every man wants to give generously.
gentlemen, it is my distinct privilege to express appreciation on behalf of the journal team. Appreciation, they say, it's the healthiest of human emotions. The healthiest of human emotions. And I really would like to express my sincere appreciation to the entire team, all the authors, all the reviewers, all the editorial team, the editors, for all the efforts that culminated in today's signal event. First up, I'd like to express my sincerest thanks to all members of the editorial board who, by their very presence, stature, the moral support, both in the background and the foreground, and their distinguished academic contributions, which added credence and enhanced the value of the development of the CGMS. We know our chairman, we understand he carries out multiple roles, and we do appreciate the fact that he found the time, even in the last minute, to prepare such a wide-ranging, interesting speech to deliver to us today and to educate us on the type of journal we decided to produce. He also gave us a broad overview of the journal industry, which I think proved to be very educational to many of us here today. To the VP Rasa for your encouraging remarks about the journal industry and for assisting with the live launch, assisting Dr. Phillips with the live launch. We really thank you for your words of encouragement and for launching the product, the publication. And to Professor Prasad, I would like to thank you for, again, your encouragement, your normal encouragement. Professor Prasad is very encouraging for giving us this wide-ranging view, showing the interconnectedness between all branches of knowledge and how that interconnectedness, that interdisciplinary nature, can make us more innovative and provide solutions to not only to our local problems, but to regional and international problems. And this provided a fitting tribute to the close of the proceedings. Gratitude is extended to the publishing and marketing team for taking care of the finer details to make this launch an excellent one. Ms. Sandra Ganesh, Ms. Janelle Nicholas, Mr. Ricardo Williams were so supportive in making the event and for transforming it into the resounding success that it has been. They took care, as they usually do, to make sure that the finer details of an event were taken care of. And we are really appreciative of that. Our special invited guests, and we know now it's COVID time, but you took time and you took the risk and the chance to be here and make this event a very special one. So we really would like to express our special thanks to you for gracing us with your presence. And Ms. Nancy Herrera, is she here? Is she here? Yes, we thank you. She's a winner of the Excellent in Teaching Awards, and she has decided to come to be part, as she is, of the Board of Undergraduate Studies and our and the efforts that the board is making to develop the university. Thank you, Ms. Herrera. Sincere appreciation is also due to the authors who had the faith in the vision articulated by the editor-in-chief. And they had faith in that the editorial efforts produced by UTT will be so rigorous and will be so fair and be so, what shall I say, generous in its, and gracious in the way we approach matters, that there was no fear in their submitting their work to us, because they know that we would be encouraging rather than an editorial team that would be rejecting of what they did. And we particularly commend the great care and attention to the protocols of research which they exhibited, in addition to their compliance, to their compliance and to their cooperation with the reviewers and the editors to refine and make their product into a better one. So we had reviewers, and the reviewers were blind, and they will remain blind, but we need to thank reviewers from UTT, from the University of the West Indies, from the Ministry of Agriculture, and we commend this scholarly approach that they exhibited towards the reviewing of the work of the authors, and the willingness, the extreme willingness to juggle their teaching schedules and the management of their overall work to ensure that they met the tight deadlines that we set for them. Sometimes we have to remind them, give them a gentle push, but they were always gracious and compliant. And the comprehensiveness of some of those reviewers, it was really heartwarming, and I must commend them. And when it was difficult to find replacement reviewers, as part of a day's work, all part of the learning process, all part of the development of the journal process. And to our copy editors, they contributed in no small way, no small measure, to the quality of the content of this journal. In particular, I would like to single out Dr. Bradshaw for her thoroughness, her meticulousness, and speed when we sought to meet tight deadlines. To her, we are really, truly grateful. And finally, our deepest appreciation goes to our journal team. In developing an online journal here in the university space to provide a forum for building researchers and for sticking closely to his vision. He carefully selected a team of managing editors, copy editors, electronic managers, who work well together with the greatest of camaraderie and professionalism and respect. But for me, the most compelling characteristic of our team was the suspension of egos we just executed our responsibilities without taking offense to the usual petty offense, which can make teamwork so complicated. So you didn't see egos playing out when we had our discourse. It was, what was the solution, what was the problem, what was the solution, how do we get there? And for me, that was one of the best experiences that we had, teamwork experiences that I ever had. At times, we sought the help of academics and librarians to assist in the proper registration of the journal and the documentation of the rules and identification and selection of suitably qualified reviewers. It was a day and night affair at times, vacation or not. We did what was necessary to get the job done. One morning when I got up early to check to see if I got a particular response because I was working with a schedule, I saw two people writing, 2 o'clock in the morning. I thought, yes, but it was refreshing. Special thanks to Mr. Loris Phillips, our electronic systems manager, who single-handedly developed this platform. And when he had to leave us because of personal challenges, he left us in a good place where we could have continued seamlessly and carried on. And he's here today, you know, and he's one of the most efficient, analytical, humble, and gracious persons I've met. I mean, I always say that, you know, we really need more people like Loris. And all the other members of the team, Diane, who opened the proceedings here today, thank you, Diane, for chairing the proceedings. And who's normally one step ahead of all of us, you know. She could predict, you know, this is going to happen, that's going to happen, I'm going to introduce a solution, you know, and I really appreciate it. And Keisha, who worked well with Dr. Phillips. Keisha is hiding somewhere in the back. She says she's an electrical engineer, but in keeping with what Professor Prasad said, I get the impression she's more a graphic artist or something like that. Because she produced a lot of the artwork for the journal and was able to give us various options, you know, in this kind of low-key reality. I thought Keisha was an electrical engineer, but she's a multidisciplinary person, multidisciplinary artist, but her artistic creations were quite good. So it feels good. It feels good to see that this day has come. After a whole more than a year of going through this process, more than a year of working so well together, the day has come. And we appreciate the fact that we are alive in the midst of the chaos of COVID, to witness it, to be part of it. We hope that this journal goes from strength to strength and contributes to the scholarship of UTT. Thank you.
Session without saying a special thank you to Brenda. Yeah, it was really a joy working with Brenda. You know, Brenda and I have worked in other parts before, so we have a history, and it was really a pleasure having her on the team. Now, she has retired from UTT, and we begged her to stay along on the team, and she has consented. And so we want to just, you know, give her special thank you. Surprise, kind of something, Brenda, or love or appreciation. We hope you accept it graciously. So, Brenda, this is for you. And the Gillian, you're going to do the needful. Thank you.
Ms. James, on behalf of the CJMS team and by extension the University of Trinidad and Tobago, we wish to present you with a token of our appreciation. Thank you for your stellar contribution that made this day come to fruition. We want to wish you a happy retirement and all the best in your future endeavors. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Brenda. And thank you all for coming. And this brings to an end our launch, the CJMS. Looking forward to your works for the next issue. Thank you very much. Have a pleasant day.